there is a spiritual component to sex that cannot be ignored. No? Oh, yes.
Well, I think, too, when God created sex, he created a man and a woman within the context of marriage so that you have that love and that loyalty and that faithfulness. So you're being fed and nourished spiritually, emotionally, mentally. And I think nowadays it's kind of turned into recreation and let's just do this for fun. But in the end, I think the Bible talks about that we're destroying our own soul. So spiritually, it's bringing you down. Now, as a former teacher, because it was so hard getting money as a pastor in the ministry, as a woman, I used to work at a school that was right there on Figueroa in Los Angeles, and I saw, the prostitutes along there, and it broke my heart. I was at an elementary school, and it just broke my heart that these girls were kind of destroying their lives. They had very bad home lives, and instead of building them up and healing, and I know I have a lot of wounds as a child, and God came and he healed my heart of those wounds because I served him and I honored him. So I wanted him to take control of my life, and I wanted him to do it his way. So I surrendered to him.
I feel like a lot of this is coming from just, what we assume, which at the end of the day, we will really never really know how someone else feels about their journey. You can't just look at somebody on the outside and be like, oh, she's so miserable. She's so sad because what? She's on the street in a cute outfit.
So I think that's what this question is.
I know, and that's why I'm going towards, because we have to realize too, being in our industry, this is a job. So we as women in this profession are able to separate having sex as a job where we're paid on camera in a full-blown like this, you know what I mean, maybe less people, versus when we go home and have that spiritual connection with the one we love. We are able to still have that.
I think it's in the Western worldview, you separate categories like spiritual, physical, sacred, secular, etc. But I think where I come from, the global South, all things are spiritual. So a Buddhist or a Hindu, everything is spiritual, right? Relationships to the way you do life, all of that. So I think for me, when I say I believe in Jesus and I want to follow him and do what he says, I think it's kind of driven out of that space where it's not a specific category for me. So for me, sex is spiritual. And I think when I say spiritual too, I think it's not like a mystical, separated from human type of space, but something that really forms and is from love. And I think for me, when I think of sex, I would say like the deep need or desire is love. I want to love and to be loved.
So something I do hear pastors speaking quite about when it comes to sex is the spiritual connection that you may have with a person when you have sex with them, maybe when they're not your husband, that stays with the person after that encounter because it was more than just a physical act. Is that something that any of you have
Well, like the soul
heard about?
ties. So
I've heard terminology like that before.
That if you have sex with somebody that there's a soul tie, you become one with them. And so there is a connection, so it plays on your mind, and there's a desire for love, a desire for them. A lot of times, sometimes we believe like the enemy, like a spirit of darkness can get a hold of you. You were talking about deliverance, and so we know that some people need prayer and get delivered from evil spirits that came in through sin.
With my experience when talking with Christians and sex, as a sex worker, I don't have sex with people outside of my husband, and even with my husband, it's not on camera. That's like a part of my life that I keep private. But I feel like the most judgment that I get about sexuality in general is less about me being a sex worker and more about me being an asexual sex worker. And I've been asexual my whole life. I've only been a sex worker for like 7 years. And I feel like when I have conversations with a lot of Christians, especially when they're a lot more fundamentalists, they have this perspective that I have to serve my husband and that the amount of sex that I have with them and my connection to sex on a spiritual level like, you know, means that we're a bad fit for each other, or, you know, that I'm a bad wife, that I'm not giving him the amount of sex that he needs. And people tend to think sex workers are like hypersexual, just messing around like rabbits. But that's the opposite case for me. I mean, I only have sex a few times a year. But the most criticism that I get is not really from people in the sex work world, but it's usually from Christians on, you know, I don't feel like it's anyone's business how much sex anyone is having, whether it's a lot or it's none at all.
So they assume that you're having a lot of sex with your husband, and they have comments about that, or
Because I'm a sex worker, people tend to assume that I have a bunch of sex.
Oh, I see.
But when people find out I'm a sex worker, then it's just like, you know, I don't serve my husband. The fact that I am a sex worker must be the reason why I don't have a lot of sex in my own personal marriage. And that's not related at all.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
I just wanted to say sorry on behalf of the church that you felt judged. I don't think that's the heart of Christianity or the heart of the God we believe in and the God that we represent. So I just wanted to say sorry.
Most people that I know that were religious, you know, they've left the church in some way, and a lot of it is just from feeling ostracized from like the relentless shaming, right? And it's like the judgment, the shame of like, it's like what I was going back earlier, like, are we really like preserving spirituality, or are we preserving power? You know, especially like the Bible is written by men. It's been, you know, reinterpreted multiple times. It's been retranslated into several different ways. It's, you know, there's so many things about it that are arbitrary. Some of it is metaphor, you know, some people take what literally, and a lot of it serves men, you know. And so when I like regard like things like spirituality and then we connect it to like how promiscuous I am, it almost feels completely irrelevant, because I, you know, when I have sex with someone, I mean it, whether it's casual or whether it's like in love, or whether it's for work. There's that contextual responsibility that I have agency, because again, I'm not religious, so there's no God in the picture for me. For me, when I have sex, it's just me and the other party, and us just enjoying it, because when I have sex, I view it as play. And then when I think about sex and I think about like, oh, I'm like losing my soul because I'm doing it for money, or because I've had sex with so many people, who does that serve? Men. I don't fucking care about that.
It's the same on the opposite end, like when I'm not having sex at all, you know, and then people face you and are like, well, you need to be serving your husband, you know. At what point does that become consensual sex versus feeling like I'm selling myself, or, you know, serving someone else versus, you know, serving our relationship? Like, at what point does that start to feel like non-consensual sex?
And that's why I agreed to the spirituality on this, because I have separated myself from the church. I say, you know, I believe in my God, not really, I don't designate it with Christian, but whatever. And it's solely based on faith. That feeling that I get, that faith, that peace, that I know we all could feel if you are spiritual, without no labels, no nothing, no books. It's, at the end of the day, a feeling. And this journey has been a spiritual journey for me, because I could feel that. Regardless if we use sex or my work or whatever to kind of shadow that, it still leads to the one thing. There is this spirituality in me. Do I call it God? Do I call it this? Whatever, higher power. You know, it works for me.